The silence in my cottage was so complete, I could hear the crackle of dying embers in the hearth 3 rooms away. I sat cross-legged on a fraying wool cushion, fingers wrapped around a cup of forgotten tea, watching wax drip in slow silver tears down the moon festival candles on my altar. Offerings of late summer fruit and wildflowers glowed in the candlelight, the only color in a life I had stripped bare of joy. Outside, the forest breathed under the full moon, and from the village far below came faint echoes of drums, laughter, and howls, wolves calling to their fated mates while the goddess listened. It was the 3rd moon festival since I ran to these mountains, since Alpha King Michael stood before the entire court and rejected the bond the goddess had placed between us. My wolf had shattered that night. I'd spent every day since learning how not to ache for a touch that was never meant to be mine. So when 3 heavy knocks shook my wooden door at midnight, my first thought was that I was dreaming. My second was terror. No one climbed this high. No one came here. Then a voice I knew like a scar rasped through the wood, raw and shaking. "Evelyn, please, open the door. I need your touch before it kills me." The door shuddered under his weight as I unbarred it. Cold wind punched into the cottage, carrying snow, pine, and a scent I had spent 3 years trying to carve out of my bones. Cedar smoke, wild storm, and something uniquely him. Michael filled the doorway for a heartbeat, broad shoulders hunched, cloak soaked, dark hair plastered to his forehead before his knees buckled. He crashed forward, catching himself on one arm, the other clutching his chest. When the cloak slipped aside, I saw it. Dark veins, like black lightning, spidering from his heart across his skin, pulsing with each pained breath. His head lifted. Those storm-gray eyes were wild with pain and something that looked horribly like hope. "Evelyn." My name broke in his mouth. "I found you." 3 years of silence and he said that, like he had simply been lost and not the one who drove a blade through our bond. I stepped back. "You need to leave." He tried to laugh. The sound turned into a cough that racked his whole body. He sagged against the doorframe, breath shallow, knuckles white. "I almost did," he said hoarsely, "a dozen times. But then I thought if I die without seeing you again, that will be the only thing I regret." "Die?" The word lodged in my throat. He shifted his hand from his chest. In the moonlight, the veins looked worse, thicker, angrier, a web of poisoned shadow beneath his skin. "Silver curse," he said. "Old, forbidden magic. Each full moon it spreads. I should have been dead months ago." My fingers clenched the door. "Then go to your healers, your council. They can't touch it." His gaze anchored mine. "Only you can." The bond surged at those words. My wolf, silent for so long, lifted her head and howled inside me. "You don't get to crawl to my door now and pretend I'm your salvation. You stood before the court and told the goddess you didn't want me." Pain flickered across his face. "I remember every word," he whispered. "I hear them every night, and every night my wolf tears at me for them." "Good. You deserve it." He nodded. Then, slowly, painfully, he let go of the doorframe and dropped fully to his knees on my threshold. My heart stopped. Kings knelt for no one. Not council, not court, not enemies. The only one an Alpha King bowed to was the goddess. And now, apparently, me. "Michael, get up." "No." Snow swirled around him, catching in his hair. He looked up at me from the ground, proud jaw clenched, eyes unguarded. "If I stand, I will command, I will order, and I will lose you again." His hands curled on his thighs. "I'm done ordering you, Evelyn. 3 years ago, those eyes had been cold. Tonight, they were raw. I rejected you to save a kingdom," he said, voice low and rough. "I told myself duty would be enough, that I could live without you if it kept my people from war. I was wrong." His breath hitched. The curse took advantage. It bound itself to that lie. Every time I denied the bond, it sank deeper. "So this is my fault?" "No." His answer was immediate, fierce. "This is mine. All of it. I broke us. I invited this. I am paying for it." His gaze dropped to his chest. "But it is killing my wolf, Evelyn, and he only howls your name." My legs felt unsteady. He had no right to say things like that. "I searched for you for 3 years," he continued softer. "Every village, every border post. I gave half my power to my brother so I could leave the palace and look. Every full moon, the curse spread while I walked through snow and storm, asking strangers if they'd seen a woman with autumn leaves in her hair and moonlight in her eyes. Heat burned behind my eyes. I blinked hard. "You don't even know me," I said. "I know you stayed when your mother died and every other wolf ran. I know you give herbs away to widows who can't pay. I know you once offered a starving rogue bread instead of a blade." His mouth trembled. "My scouts talk, little wolf. I listen to every word about you like a starving man listens to the promise of rain. Little wolf." The old endearment slid under my skin. "This curse," I forced out. "What does it want from me?" Fear flashed in his eyes. Not fear of death, fear of my answer. "It feeds on the bond it tried to sever. The only thing that can weaken it is that bond restored. Your touch, your acceptance, the goddess's gift, freely chosen." He exhaled, shaky. "I am not here to demand that. I don't deserve it." "Then why are you here?" He lowered his head. Snow caught in his hair, melting against his skin. "To beg," he said simply. "Not for your touch to save my life. If the goddess wants me dead for what I did to you, I'll go. I earned it." His hands fisted. "I'm begging for a chance to prove that. If you let me live, I choose you over everything, over crown, over counsel, over the laws my father bled for. I will burn it all before I lose you again." My heart twisted violently. "Please, Evelyn." His voice dropped to a rasp. "If you shut this door, I won't try again. I'll crawl back down this mountain and let the curse finish what I started. But if there is even a flicker of the bond left in you, let me stay. Just for the festival week. Let me show you, not tell you. Show you that I will never choose anything above you again." The bond inside me pulsed like a heartbeat waking. My wolf pressed forward, wanting to reach, touch, claim. 3 years ago, I had begged. I had stood in the moonlit courtyard, hard on display, and begged him to reconsider. He had turned away. Now the king knelt in the snow on my threshold, begging me. I hated him. I wanted him. I didn't know how to breathe with both truths crushing my ribs. "You have no right to ask this of me," I said. "You're right," he answered softly. "I have no right to anything from you. That's why I'm not asking as your king. I'm asking as your mate." He looked up, eyes shining with unshed tears. "You are the only thing I have ever wanted for myself." Silence stretched between us. The smart thing was to close the door, to lock it and let the mountain swallow the echo of his voice. I had survived his rejection once. I was not sure I would survive hoping again, but I could feel his pain through the bond now sharp, searing, edged with cold. I could feel his wolf, ragged and desperate, reaching for mine. I stepped over the threshold. His breath stuttered. "Lift your head," I murmured. Slowly, he obeyed. My hand shook as I reached out. 3 years without touching him, and now his face was right there, close enough to see the tired lines at his eyes, the stubble along his jaw, the faint tremble in his mouth. I set my palm against his cheek. The world exploded. Heat roared through me, through us, a shockwave that slammed down the bond like a river breaking its dam. My wolf howled, his wolf answered, and for a heartbeat there was nothing but us, just the rightness of skin to skin, soul to soul, the way it had always been meant to be. Michael gasped, eyes flying wide as the dark veins at his throat pulsed, then retreated slightly, their edges softening, receding from my touch. The curse, snarling and reluctant, loosened its grip. "Goddess," he choked, his hand lifted, hovering as if he didn't dare touch me back. "I feel you." "Evelyn," I snatched my hand away before I could drown in it. He sagged, panting, the blackness in his veins a shade lighter. "It works," I said, voice barely more than a breath. "The bond weakens it." Hope flared in his eyes so bright it hurt to look at. I held up a shaking hand. "Don't say anything. Don't promise me the world. You already had it, and chose to break me instead." He flinched. "You may stay," I forced out, each word heavier than stone. "Until the festival ends, I will help you, because I won't have your death on my soul." I swallowed hard. "But when the last candle burns out, if you haven't convinced me things are different, you leave, and you don't come back." He knelt there, breathing hard, staring at me with something like reverence. "Thank you," he whispered. "For this night. For your mercy. For one more chance to be worthy of you." I stepped back, opening the door wider. "Get up, Michael," I said, hating how soft my voice sounded. You're bleeding on my floor." He pushed himself to his feet with a strained sound, one hand still pressed over his cursed heart. As he crossed my threshold, the bond thrummed again, a low, insistent hum beneath my skin. The Alpha King had entered my cottage. The mate who had once destroyed me was inside my world again. And for the first time in 3 years, as I closed the door against the winter wind, I wasn't sure solitude had ever been the same thing as safety. We made it exactly as far as the pallet by the hearth before Michael's legs gave out. "Easy," I muttered, stepping in before he could hit the floor. Heat poured off him in waves. The dark veins at his throat pulsed like something alive. His arm landed heavy across my shoulders. Even through damp wool, the contact punched through me. The bond flared, sharp and sweet, a spark straight down my spine. I gritted my teeth and focused on moving him, one step at a time. "You touched me," he said as I eased him down onto the pallet. "It feels different tonight." My fingers brushed his collar as I worked the clasp. The moment skin met skin, heat slammed into me again. His breath hitched. Mine did too. I jerked my hands away and stripped the cloak in quick, efficient movements. "Don't talk. That's unfortunate," he murmured. "I came to do a great deal of that." I fetched tea from the hearth, measuring herbs with hands that were not shaking. Chamomile, valerian, moonflower petals. When I turned back, he was watching me like I was the only thing in the room worth noticing. "Drink," I said, kneeling beside him and passing him the cup. Our fingers brushed. The bond crackled along my nerves. His eyes went half-lidded. "This is going to be torture," he said softly. "Every accidental touch that doesn't get to be more." I stayed where I was, too aware of his warmth, his scent starting to peel away the layers I'd wrapped around myself. "Talk then," I said. "Make your confession." He stared into the cup. "They wanted me bound to the east, to the High Alpha's daughter. Land, armies, trade routes all tied up in one neat mating ceremony." His eyes held mine. Then the moon festival came and the goddess decided to make it complicated. "You." My chest tightened. "You didn't even hesitate." "I hesitated," he said quietly. "You just couldn't see it." "I went to the temple. I begged for another way." The goddess didn't listen, so I convinced myself the only way to stop a war was to reject you publicly. "You could have told me. Instead, you let me stand there like a fool while you pretended you didn't feel it." A muscle ticked in his jaw. "I thought it would be kinder if you believed there was nothing there." "Kinder," I repeated bitterly. "You broke my wolf, Michael." For months she didn't move. I woke up and felt nothing. No hunger, no joy, just emptiness. I couldn't breathe without pain. The only thing that kept me alive was stubbornness and herbs that made the world fuzz at the edges. His hand tightened around the cup. "I know," he whispered. "You don't." "I do," he said, something raw in his voice. "The bond doesn't just break on one side. You were hollow. I was shredded. My wolf wouldn't hunt. Food tasted like ash. All I could feel was the echo of you. Yet you still chose duty," I said. "Then, yes, and every day since, I've been choosing differently." He set the cup aside carefully. "I refused the political mating, tore up the treaty. The council threatened revolt. I changed the inheritance laws so the crown doesn't require a strategic bond anymore. I've been rewriting the very rules my father carved into stone, all so that if the goddess ever allowed me near you again, I could say the words I should have said that night." My throat felt too tight. "What words?" "That I choose you," he said simply. "No crown, no council. I choose you, Evelyn. I always did. I was just too much a coward to act on it." Silence pooled between us. "I spent 3 years building walls," I said finally. "I made my world smaller until nothing could reach me. No pack, no friends, just herbs and work and sleep. I told myself I preferred it, that it hurt less not to hope." His gaze softened. "Does it?" "Most days," I admitted. "Some nights I wake up reaching for someone who isn't there. But during the day, it's quiet, predictable, safe." He leaned back, closing his eyes. "I have never been safe. Not since my father put the crown on my head. But I was less lonely, knowing you were somewhere in the world. Even if you hated me." I didn't answer. Couldn't. Eventually, I dragged a chair closer to the hearth and sat. My knees brushed the edge of his palate. When I reached for my cup, his fingers brushed mine again. The spark of contact made us both suck in a breath. We should limit that, I said, voice unsteady. Probably, he agreed, not moving his hand away. We stayed that way too long, the tiny point of contact feeling more intimate than any embrace. Finally, I snatched my hand away and wrapped both around my cup. Sleep, I said. Healing takes energy. He swallowed. I just haven't slept without dreaming of your scent in 3 years. It's strange to be this close and still be on the floor. I stared into the fire. I'm not ready for more. I know. His voice was soft. I'm not asking. I stood, dragged the chair closer to his palate, then sat again. Close enough that if I stretched my hand, I could touch him. Far enough that I didn't. Guard duty? He asked. If the curse decides to finish you tonight, I'd like to be awake to watch. He smiled then. Small, tired, devastating. Stay anyway. The hours blurred. The fire sank to embers. His breathing evened out. At some point, my head tipped back against the chair, eyes burning, body heavy. Across from me, his hand had fallen off the pallet, fingers dangling, palm up. I told myself not to, told myself I owed him nothing. Still, sometime between one breath and the next, I reached out in the dim light and let my fingertips rest against his. The bond hummed, quiet and warm, like sliding under a thick blanket on a winter night. I fell asleep like that, 2 chairs, too much distance, a single fragile touch between us, aching to be closer and terrified of what would happen if I let myself choose it. I woke to his screaming. The sound tore through the cottage like a wounded animal, raw and guttural and wrong. I lurched out of the chair, heart hammering, disoriented in the pre-dawn darkness. Michael thrashed on the pallet, back arching, clawing at his chest. The dark veins had spread since last night, creeping up his throat like poison ivy, pulsing with sickly black light. Michael, I dropped to my knees beside him, hands hovering, afraid to touch, afraid not to. Michael, look at me. His eyes snapped open, unfocused, wild. His wolf was too close to the surface, fighting the curse, tearing him apart from the inside. The full moon. I'd been so focused on him that I'd forgotten tonight was the peak, the goddess's light at its strongest. The very thing that should have blessed us was feeding the curse instead. Evelyn, he gasped, voice shredded. Can't, it's burning. His hand shot out and caught my wrist. The contact blazed up my arm, the bond screaming in response. For a moment, his eyes cleared. Then another wave hit him and he convulsed, releasing me with a choked sound. Don't, he gritted out. Don't touch. Makes it worse when you pull away. My omega nature surged forward, instinct overriding thought. Alpha in pain, mate suffering. Everything in me demanded I fix it, soothe it, protect him even from himself. I had 2 choices. Let him burn through this alone, suffering, possibly dying while I watched. Or give him what the bond was howling for. I made it before I could talk myself out of it. I climbed onto the pallet beside him, swinging one leg over his thrashing form, and pressed my full weight against his chest, skin to skin where his shirt had torn open, my hands framing his face, my forehead against his. Breathe, I commanded, using the voice my mother taught me, the one that could gentle wild things. Michael, breathe with me. He went rigid beneath me. Then, slowly, his chest rose and fell in shaky rhythm with mine. The bond roared to life between us, no longer a tentative thread but a rope, thick and binding, pulling taut. Heat poured through it, his pain, my fear, something deeper that tasted like recognition, like coming home after years of wandering. That's it, I murmured, one hand sliding into his sweat-damp hair. I've got you. You're not alone. His arms came up, hesitant, then wrapped around me with desperate strength. He buried his face in the crook of my neck and breathed in like a drowning man breaking the surface. Evelyn, he whispered against my skin. Goddess, you smell like... Another tremor racked through him. I held tighter, letting my omega nature take over, the part of me that knew how to calm, how to heal. I ran my fingers through his hair in slow, soothing strokes, pressed my lips to his temple, let my scent, mountain herbs and wood smoke and something uniquely mine wrap around him like a blanket. I'm here, I said softly. I'm not leaving. The hours blurred together. The moon climbed higher outside, silver light spilling through the window, and with it came waves of pain that left him gasping and shaking in my arms. Each time, I held him through it. Each time, I whispered things I didn't plan to say. You're stronger than this. The curse doesn't own you. I won't let it take you. And when the pain receded enough for him to speak, he gave me words back. Fevered, broken, true. Dreamed of you every night, he breathed into my neck. Your laugh. The way you bit your lip when you concentrated. How you smelled like spring even in winter. Michael. Couldn't forget, he continued, trembling. Tried. Goddess knows I tried. But you were everywhere, in every moon, every garden. Every woman who wasn't you. His arms tightened. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I would carve out my heart and give it to you if it would undo what I did. My throat closed. Your heart wouldn't do me much good if you're dead. He laughed, the sound ragged. Always practical. One of us has to be. His hand came up, fingers tangling in my hair. Not pulling, just holding, like I was the only solid thing in a world gone liquid and strange. You could have let me die out there in the snow. Could have shut the door and been free of me. I know. Why didn't you? I didn't have an answer that didn't terrify me. So I gave him the easy one. Because the goddess doesn't make mistakes with bonds, even when we wish she did. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, softer. Do you wish she had? I felt the question against my collarbone. Felt the way he held his breath waiting for my answer. Ask me again when you're not dying, I whispered. Another wave hit. This one was the worst yet. He arched against me with a sound like breaking, and I felt it through the bond, the curse digging deeper, silver claws wrapped around his heart, squeezing. No, I snarled, pressing closer, flooding the bond with everything I had. My omega nature rose like a tide, fierce and protective and utterly unafraid. You don't get to take him. I didn't know if I was talking to the curse, or the goddess, or death itself. Didn't matter. I wrapped myself around Michael like a shield and refused to let go. My hands found his face, thumbs stroking his cheekbones. My lips brushed his forehead, his temple, the corner of his jaw. Not kisses, not quite, but something more essential. Comfort. Connection. The promise that he wasn't alone in the dark. Stay with me, I breathed. Michael, stay. His eyes opened, barely focused. Evelyn, stay. Something shifted. The bond flared bright and hot between us, and I felt the curse recoil. Just a fraction, like light pushing back shadow. The black veins at his throat pulsed once, twice, then began to recede, pulling back toward his heart. His breathing evened. The trembling slowed. By the time the moon set and dawn crept gray through the window, he'd fallen into something like real sleep. I stayed where I was, draped across him, feeling his chest rise and fall steadily beneath me. My omega purred, satisfied, safe in the knowledge that her alpha was healing. I was too exhausted to fight what that meant. When I woke, the cottage was full of soft morning light. I was still on the pallet, still pressed against Michael's side. Sometime in the night, we'd shifted my head on his shoulder, his arm around my waist, our legs tangled together like we'd been doing this for years instead of hours. His face was buried in my hair. I felt him breathe in, slow and deep, like he was memorizing me. You smell like home, he murmured, voice rough with sleep. I forgot how much. He went rigid as awareness returned. His arms started to retreat. Don't, I said before I could stop myself. He froze. Evelyn, I lifted my head, met his eyes. They were clearer now, storm gray and uncertain, and so full of careful hope it made my chest ache. Don't pull away, I whispered. Not yet. His throat worked. I don't want to push. You're not. I placed my hand flat against his chest, right over his heart. The black veins were still there, but fainter, less angry, healing. Last night, I felt what it's like, the bond. Not broken, not denied, just there. The way it was supposed to be. His hand came up, covering mine, pressing it harder against his heartbeat. And? I should have said it terrified me. Should have said I wasn't ready. Should have pulled away and rebuilt my walls before I did something catastrophically stupid like believe this could work. Instead, I told the truth. And I don't want you to let go. The forest was silver with morning frost when we set out to gather herbs. Michael insisted on coming despite my protests. "You're still healing," I'd said, watching him lace his boots with hands that trembled only slightly. "I'm not letting you go alone into the woods when there might be." He stopped, jaw tightening. "I'm coming." So we walked, my basket over one arm, his presence a warm weight at my side. The bond hummed between us, quieter now than last night's roar, but still there, still undeniable. I led him to a clearing where wintergreen grew in thick patches beneath the pines. We worked in comfortable silence for a while, my hands sure and practiced, his clumsy but willing. "My father was dying," he said suddenly. I glanced up. He was staring at the herbs in his hands, not seeing them. He called me to his bedside 3 days before the end, made me swear an oath. His voice was flat, controlled. That I would secure the kingdom through political alliance, that I would bind us to the Eastern Pax before his enemies could move against us. He said if I didn't, everything he'd built would collapse into civil war. My hands stilled in the frozen earth. I was 22, he continued, barely ready to rule, terrified of failing him, of failing everyone. So I swore it, on my wolf, on my honor, on the goddess herself. He crushed a sprig of wintergreen between his fingers. "Alpha oaths aren't breakable, Evelyn, not without consequences. So when you met me, I was already bound." He finally looked at me, and the pain in his eyes was raw enough to cut. "The goddess gave me a mate, and I couldn't accept her without breaking an oath that would have destroyed my people." I sat back on my heels. "You could have explained. To what end?" "So you could watch me choose duty over you with full understanding." He shook his head. "I thought a clean break would hurt less." I was wrong about that too. The wind sighed through the pines above us. Somewhere distant, a bird called. "What changed?" I asked quietly. "I did." He moved closer, kneeling in the frost beside me. "After I rejected you, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My wolf was killing me from the inside, clawing at my ribs, howling your name until I thought I'd go mad." His hand clenched, and I realized what good is a kingdom if I'm too broken to rule it? What good is honor if it means destroying the one thing the goddess made specifically for me? "So you broke the oath?" "No." A bitter smile crossed his face. "I found another way. I spent 3 years building alliances my father never imagined. I changed succession laws, strengthened my brother's claim, shifted power so the crown didn't rest solely on my mating choice." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I dismantled my father's world piece by piece so I could be free to build my own. My breath caught. "Why?" "Because I love you." He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "I've loved you since the moment I caught your scent at the moon festival," and my wolf said her. "I loved you when I rejected you, though I was too much a coward to honor it. I've loved you every day since, through 3 years of searching, through this curse, through your anger and your walls, and every reason you have to hate me." His thumb traced my cheekbone with aching gentleness. "Rejecting you didn't just break the bond, Evelyn. It shattered me. Every piece of me that mattered, it all stayed with you on that mountainside when you fled the court." Tears burned behind my eyes. I blinked them back fiercely. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not? It's true." He leaned closer, and I felt his breath warm against my lips. "I will spend the rest of my life proving it if you'll let me. No crown, no kingdom, just us, just—" He stopped. His whole body went rigid. "What?" I whispered. "Do you smell that?" I lifted my head, drawing in a slow breath through my nose. And there, beneath pine and frost and earth, something else. Foreign, sharp. The scent of wolves I didn't recognize. Michael was already moving, rising to his feet with predatory grace, eyes scanning the tree line. "How long have you noticed strangers in these woods?" "I haven't." My heart hammered. "I'm alone up here. No one comes this far." "Someone has," he pointed. I followed his gaze and felt my stomach drop. Tracks in the frost. Large, fresh. At least 3 different sets, all circling the clearing like they'd been watching, waiting. "Damon," Michael breathed, and the name carried weight like a curse. "He found us." "Who?" "The one who cursed me, the one who wants my throne." He caught my hand, pulling me up, pulling me close. The one who will use you to destroy me if we don't move. Now. A branch snapped somewhere to our left. Michael stepped in front of me. Every inch the Alpha King now, power radiating off him in waves despite the curse still shadowing his veins. A low growl built in his chest, territorial and deadly. Run back to the cottage, he said quietly. Bar the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. I'm not leaving you. Evelyn. He glanced back, and his eyes had gone wolf-bright, dangerous. If they take you, I will burn the world to get you back, and I'm not strong enough for that yet. Please, run. Another snap. Closer. Then, from the shadows between the trees, a voice smooth, amused, utterly cold. Too late for running, little Omega. We've been waiting for you to come out and play. 3 wolves stepped from the tree line, large, scarred, moving with the confidence of trained killers. Behind them, more shadows shifted. How many? 5? 10? Michael's hand found mine, squeezed once. Stay behind me, he murmured. Whatever happens, stay behind me. The largest wolf grinned, showing too many teeth. Alpha King Michael, how generous of you to bring us exactly what Lord Damon wants. This will be easier than we thought. We made it back to the cottage with minutes to spare. Michael shoved me through the door, barred it behind us, and immediately started dragging furniture. The table, both chairs, anything heavy enough to slow an attack. How many? I asked, grabbing my leather satchel and shoving supplies inside with shaking hands. Herbs, bandages, the small knife my mother left me. Too many. His voice was grim. Damon sent a hunting pack. At least 8, maybe more. Can you fight that many in your condition? He shot me a look that was pure alpha, fierce, possessive, utterly uncompromising. I will fight an army if that's what it takes to keep you safe, Michael. The first impact hit the door like thunder. Wood splintered. The bar held but barely. Another hit, and the hinges groaned. The back window, Michael said, already moving. Go, now. Not without you. I'll be right behind you. Go. I ran. The window was small, barely wide enough for my shoulders. I squeezed through, dropping into the snow, and turned back just as the front door exploded inward. Wolves poured through, massive, snarling, and Michael, goddess, I'd never seen him fight before. He moved like violence given form, all raw power and lethal grace. His fist connected with the first attacker's jaw with a crack that echoed. He spun, caught another by the throat, and threw him into the stone hearth hard enough to crack bone. But there were too many. And the curse had weakened him. I saw it in the way his movements stuttered, the way he favored his left side, the dark veins pulsing at his throat. One of them got past his guard. A blade flashed. Michael twisted, but not fast enough. The steel caught him across the ribs, and blood bloomed dark against his shirt. No! The scream tore from my throat before I could stop it. His head snapped toward me, eyes wide. Run, Evelyn! Run! I ran. Into the forest, branches tearing at my clothes, snow soaking through my boots. Behind me, snarls and crashes as Michael fought his way after me. I heard him call my name once, raw and desperate, and then he was beside me, blood streaming from the wound at his ribs, one hand clamped over it. Keep going, he gasped. There's a cave, 1/2 a mile north. We can lose them. A howl cut through the air. Close, too close. Michael grabbed my hand and pulled me faster. We found the cave as darkness fell. A narrow opening hidden behind a frozen waterfall, barely visible unless you knew where to look. We stumbled inside, and Michael immediately collapsed against the stone wall, breathing hard, his face too pale. Let me see, I said, already kneeling beside him, pulling his ruined shirt aside. The wound was deep, not fatal, but bad enough. Blood pulsed between his fingers where he pressed down. I'm fine, he gritted out. You're bleeding all over my cave floor. You're not fine. I worked quickly, hands steady despite my racing heart. Cleaned the wound with whiskey from my satchel, packed it with crushed yarrow to stop the bleeding, stitched it closed with thread and a needle I'd packed without thinking. He didn't make a sound through any of it. Just watched me with those storm-gray eyes, intense and unreadable. You should have left me, he said when I finally tied off the bandage. I looked up. What? At the cottage. You should have run when I told you to. You'd be safe. And you'd be dead. My voice shook. Don't ask me to do that again. Evelyn. No. I pressed my hand flat against his chest, feeling his heart hammer beneath my palm. You don't get to sacrifice yourself for me. Not when I just decided I might want to keep you. Something shifted in his expression. Hope. Fear. Need so raw it hurt to see. Say that again, he whispered. I want to keep you. The words came easier the second time. I'm still terrified. I still don't trust this won't break me. But he kissed me. One moment we were separate, and the next his hand was in my hair, his mouth on mine, and the world dissolved into heat and sensation and the devastating rightness of finally touching him the way the bond had been screaming for since the moment we met. I gasped against his lips and he swallowed the sound, kissing me deeper, pulling me closer until I was in his lap, straddling him, careful of his wound but unable to stop touching, tasting, claiming. The bond roared to life between us, not the tentative thread from before, but a wildfire, consuming everything in its path. His hands trembled as they framed my face. Evelyn! He breathed against my mouth. Goddess, I've dreamed. I kissed him again. Harder this time. 3 years of longing and grief and desperate need pouring out of me. He tasted like blood and snow and something uniquely him. And I couldn't get enough. His omega, his mate, mine. The word pulsed through the bond like a heartbeat. Mine, mine, mine. I felt the exact moment the bond started to complete. Heat seared through my core, his wolf calling to mine, the final surrender hovering right there, so close. I pulled back, gasping. Wait, I choked out. Wait, I can't, not yet. He released me immediately, hands falling away, though his whole body shook with restraint. I know, he said, voice wrecked. I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize for that. I touched my fingers to my lips, still feeling the ghost of him there. But if we complete the bond now, here, running for our lives. I shook my head. I want to choose you. Not because a curse forces it, not because we're desperate, because I'm ready. He nodded slowly, understanding flickering in his eyes despite the pain. Then we stay ahead of them, until you're ready, until you choose freely. The Moon Temple, I said. You mentioned ancient protections. 2 days north, sacred ground. Damon's wolves can't enter without the goddess's permission. He tried to stand, winced. Let me help him up. We leave at first light. Outside, the howls started again. Closer now, hunting. Michael pulled me against his side, his arm around my waist, solid and warm despite everything. I will get you there safely, he murmured into my hair. I swear it on my life, on my wolf, on everything I am. I will keep you safe long enough to choose. I pressed closer, breathing him in. Then we run at dawn. He kissed the top of my head, gentle this time. Reverent. At dawn, he agreed. Together, we walked through 2 days of winter, and somewhere along the way, I stopped counting the distance between us. It started small, Michael's hand at my elbow as we crossed an icy stream, his body angled to block the wind. The way he insisted I eat first when we stopped to rest, watching until I swallowed before taking anything himself. By the second morning, his hand had found the small of my back and stayed there. Possessive, protective, right. I let it. We moved through the mountains like wolves who'd been running together for years instead of days. He matched his stride to mine without thinking. I leaned into his warmth when the wind cut too sharp. When we sheltered in a narrow canyon to wait out a storm, we pressed together for heat, my back to his chest, his arms wrapped around me, and neither of us pretended it was only practical. Tell me about after, he said into my hair, as snow fell silent around us. After what? After you accept the bond. His arms tightened fractionally. If you accept it, what does your life look like? I stared at the white-gray sky. I don't know. I've spent 3 years trying not to imagine a future that included you. Imagine it now, he said softly. Please, give me something to hope for. So I did. A cottage, I said slowly. Bigger than mine, with a garden large enough to grow everything I need. A workroom for drying herbs and mixing remedies. People coming to the door not because I'm anyone important, but because they know I can help. And me? His voice was barely a breath. Am I there? You're in the garden, I admitted. getting dirt under your nails, complaining that you're a king, not a farmer, but doing it anyway because you like the way I smile when the tomatoes come in. His chest shook with silent laughter. I would do that. Complain the entire time and come back the next day. I know. I turned my head slightly, enough to see the edge of his jaw. What about you? What do you want? You, he said simply. Everything else is negotiable. Michael, I mean it. He shifted, and suddenly we were face to face, his gray eyes serious. I've spent 3 years dismantling my father's legacy. My brother is ready to take the crown. Better suited for it, honestly. He likes the politics, the strategy, all the things I only did because I had to. His hand came up, cupping my cheek. What I want is a life where my biggest decision is whether the beans need watering, where I come home to you every night and wake up beside you every morning, where we're just Michael and Evelyn, not King and Omega, not Alpha and Mate, just us. My throat felt too tight. You'd really give up the throne? I already have. Legally, officially. The documents are signed. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I told you I choose you. I meant it. But what if... I stopped, the fear catching up. What if something happens? What if duty calls again, and you have to choose between me and your people? He was quiet for a moment. Then he took my hand and pressed it over his heart. Feel that? He asked. His heartbeat. Steady. Strong. My wolf lives here, he said. And he chose you the moment we met. Every instinct I have, every piece of what I am, it all points to you. His other hand tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. If duty calls, I will find another way. If my people need me, I will help them, but not at the cost of us. Never again. How can you promise that? Because I swear it. His voice dropped, taking on the weight of ritual, of oaths spoken under the moon. On the goddess who made us. On my alpha blood. On my wolf and my honor and everything I hold sacred, you will always be my first choice, Evelyn. In this life and whatever comes after. Magic shivered through the air between us. An alpha oath, spoken true, binding as chains. I will prove it, he continued, softer now. Every single day for the rest of our lives, I will choose you. I will choose us. And if I falter, if I forget, you have my permission to remind me exactly how much of a fool I was before I learned better. A sound escaped me. Half laugh, half sob. That's a lot of pressure, I whispered. You can handle it. He pressed his forehead to mine. You're the strongest person I know. You survived losing me once. You built a whole life out of nothing but stubbornness and herbs. You faced down a curse and decided to save me anyway. His breath ghosted across my lips. If anyone can handle loving an idiot king, it's you. Former king, I corrected. Former idiot king, he agreed, smiling. The storm passed. We walked on. That night, we reached the temple. It rose from the mountainside like something carved by the goddess herself. White stone, glowing silver in the moonlight, ancient and untouchable. I felt the protections the moment we crossed the threshold. Warmth, safety. The sense of sanctuary so strong it made my knees weak. We're safe here, Michael said, catching me as I stumbled. Damon's wolves can't follow. The goddess won't allow it. There were rooms for pilgrims. Simple. Clean. A bed piled with furs against one wall. One bed. We looked at it. Looked at each other. I can sleep on the floor, he offered. Don't be ridiculous. You're still healing. Evelyn, get in the bed, Michael. He obeyed, moving carefully, favoring his wounded ribs. I followed, sliding under the furs beside him, and for a moment we just lay there, awkward and uncertain. Then his arm came around my waist, a question. I answered by pressing back against him, fitting myself into the curve of his body like I was made for that exact space. His breath hitched. Is this okay? Yes. I laced my fingers through his where they rested against my stomach. This is okay. He buried his face in my hair, breathing me in, and the bond hummed between us. Content, not complete, not yet, but close, so close. Thank you, he murmured. For what? For not giving up on us, for giving me this chance, for being exactly who you are. I closed my eyes, feeling safe for the first time in 3 years. Ask me again in the morning if I regret it. His arms tightened. I will spend every morning for the rest of my life making sure you don't." Outside, the mountain wind howled. Inside, wrapped in warmth and Michael's steady heartbeat against my spine, I finally let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. We slept like that, two people learning to be one, still scared, still scarred, but choosing each other anyway. I woke to the sound of breaking stone. Michael was already moving, rolling out of bed, positioning himself between me and the door before I'd even processed what was happening. "They can't be here," I breathed. "The temple. Someone let them in." His voice was deadly calm. "Get behind me." The door exploded inward. They came like a flood, 10-15 warriors, too many for even a healthy alpha to fight. Michael launched himself at the first one, and I saw the exact moment his wound tore open. Blood bloomed through the bandage. He staggered. "No!" I screamed. They swarmed him, brought him to his knees. One blade at his throat, another pressed against his spine. And then Damon walked through the door. He was everything I'd imagined, and worse, tall, scarred, with eyes like black ice and a smile that promised cruelty. He looked at Michael, broken and bleeding on the floor, and laughed. "The mighty Alpha King," he said, brought low by a half-healed wound and an omega. "Touch her and I'll kill you," Michael snarled. His wolf flashed in his eyes, feral and desperate. "Will you?" Damon moved closer, circling us like a predator. "You can barely stand. Your curse is eating you alive. And your mate." His gaze slid to me, assessing. "She's the only thing keeping you tethered to this world." He stopped in front of me. "Hello, little Omega. I've heard so much about you." I lifted my chin. "Let him go." "I don't think so." Damon gestured, and his warriors hauled Michael up, forcing him to watch. "See, I've spent months trying to take the throne by force. But you've given me something better. Leverage." Michael lunged against his captors. "I will tear you apart." "You'll do nothing," Damon interrupted. "Because if you do, I'll kill her right here. Is that what you want?" Michael went still. Everything in him screamed violence, but he couldn't move, couldn't risk me. I saw the trap closing, saw the choice I had to make. "Let him go," I said again, "and I'll come with you willingly." "No," Michael's voice broke on the word. "Evelyn, no. One life for another," I continued, ignoring him, eyes locked on Damon. "You want leverage? I'm it. Let him live and you can use me however you need to make him surrender." Damon's smile widened. "Smart girl." "Evelyn, don't do this." Michael was shaking now, fighting his captors, the wound in his side bleeding freely. "Please, I can't." I crossed to him. The warriors let me, amused by the mercy they thought they were showing. I cupped his face in my hands, memorizing the feel of him. "You swore you'd choose me," I whispered. "So choose me now. Live, get strong, and come find me. I can't lose you again." "You won't." I pressed my forehead to his. "Trust the bond. I'll be waiting." Then I kissed him, soft, quick, a promise. "Take me," I said, stepping back, looking at Damon. "Let him go." Damon considered, then nodded. "Release him." Michael lunged the moment they let go. I felt his hands grasp at air where I'd been as Damon's warriors dragged me toward the door. "Evelyn!" His howl shattered the dawn, raw and animal and utterly broken. "Evelyn, no!" I looked back once, saw him on his knees, blood and tears streaming down his face, reaching for me like he could pull me back through sheer will. "I love you," I mouthed. Then they pulled me into the dark. The fortress was 3 days' hard ride north. They kept me in a tower room, locked but comfortable. A prison dressed as hospitality. Damon visited on the second day. "You're being treated well?" he asked, as if we were discussing weather. I didn't answer. "The Alpha King will surrender within the week," he continued. "I've sent word. His throne for your life. Simple exchange. He'll kill you first." "He'll try." Damon moved to the window, looking out over his territory. "But he's weak. The curse has him by the throat, and without you there to ease it, he's dying. So he'll come. He'll kneel. And when he does, I'll have everything I want." He turned back, and something darker flickered in his expression. "Unless, of course, you'd like to make this easier on everyone. Accept my mark, become my mate. Shatter the true bond permanently." Michael would have no reason to fight then. Ice flooded my veins. "Never. Think about it," he said mildly. A forced mark is painful, Omega. Voluntary is much more pleasant. I'll give you 3 days to decide. He left me alone after that. The hours bled together. I paced. I slept fitfully. I pressed my hand over my heart and felt the bond still there, stretched thin, aching, but unbroken. Michael was alive. Somewhere out there, he was alive and probably planning something stupidly heroic. On the 3rd night, I sat by the window and watched the moon rise. My Omega nature stirred, restless. Wrong, she whispered. Separated from Alpha. Wrong. I know, I murmured. But he's coming. He swore it. I closed my eyes and reached down the bond, sending everything I had. Trust, faith, the knowledge that I was waiting, that I hadn't given up. And far away, like an echo in the dark, I felt him reach back. Hold on, the bond seemed to say. I'm coming. Hold on. So I did. I held onto his oath. Onto the memory of his kiss. Onto the future we'd imagined together in that snow-filled canyon. When Damon came on the 4th morning, smile sharp as knives, I met his gaze without flinching. Have you decided? He asked. Yes. I straightened, channeling every ounce of strength my mother taught me, every bit of steel that had kept me alive through 3 years of loneliness. I've decided that when Michael comes for me, and he will, you're going to regret every moment you kept me here. Damon laughed. Bold words for a captive Omega. Not captive. I smiled, cold and certain. Bait. There's a difference. His smile faltered. You think you're hunting him, I continued. But you've just given the most dangerous Alpha in the kingdom a reason to stop holding back. You took his mate, his Omega, the one thing he swore to protect above all else. I moved closer to the window, looking out at the fortress walls, at the forest beyond. He's out there right now. Planning, waiting, and when he strikes Damon, he won't be the weakened king you faced at the temple. The curse is nothing compared to a mating bond, I finished. You should have killed me when you had the chance. Damon stared at me, something like uncertainty crossing his face for the first time. Then horns sounded from the walls. Urgent, alarmed. A warrior burst through the door. My lord the king, he's at the gates. Damon's face went white. I smiled, feeling the bond flare bright and fierce in my chest. Told you, I whispered. He's here. They dragged me to the battlements to watch. Michael stood alone at the fortress gates. No guards, no weapons, no crown. Just a man in travel-worn clothes, head bowed, hands open at his sides. Surrendering. Your king has come to beg, Damon announced to his gathered warriors. Then to me, watch closely, Omega. This is what your bond has cost him. But I was watching, and I saw what Damon didn't. The way Michael's shoulders weren't slumped in defeat, they were coiled. The way his hands hung loose, not in surrender but ready. The way his eyes tracked the fortress walls, counting, calculating. When his gaze found mine, I saw the truth blazing there. Trust me. I offer terms, Michael called out, voice carrying across the courtyard. My throne, my territory, my wealth, all of it, freely given, in exchange for her safe release. Damon laughed, the sound echoing off stone. The mighty king, brought to his knees by an Omega. Your father would be ashamed. My father is dead, Michael said quietly, and I learned too late that some things matter more than pride. He dropped to his knees in the dirt. A collective gasp rippled through the watching warriors. An Alpha King, kneeling before his enemy. It was unthinkable. Unforgivable. It was perfect misdirection. Bring her down, Damon ordered, drunk on his victory. Let her see what she's done to him. They shoved me down the stairs, through the courtyard, until I stood 20 paces from Michael. Our eyes met and held. I'm sorry, he said, and I heard the layers in it. Sorry for the ruse. Sorry for the risk. Sorry for everything that brought us here. I'm not, I answered, and I meant it. Damon moved between us, savoring the moment. Swear it, he demanded. Swear on your wolf and your blood that you surrender everything. I swear, Michael began. Then hell broke loose. Warriors poured over the walls, Michael's men, dozens of them, hidden and waiting for exactly this moment. The distraction. The arrogant certainty that had drawn every eye to the gates while they scaled the fortress from behind. Chaos erupted. Steel rang against steel. Wolves snarled and shifted, and Michael moved. He was on his feet and running before Damon could react, cutting through the fighting like a blade through silk, heading straight for me. "Stop him!" Damon roared. Two warriors stepped into Michael's path. He didn't slow, didn't hesitate, just dropped one with a brutal hit and vaulted over the other, never breaking stride. Then he was there, hands on my face, breathless and wild and alive. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No, but Michael..." The chains. He ripped them from the wall like they were made of paper, adrenaline and desperation making him impossibly strong. "We need to run," he said, pulling me toward the gates where his warriors were fighting to hold the passage open. But Damon was faster. He appeared in front of us, shifted halfway to Wolf, eyes blazing with rage. "You think you can take what's mine?" "She was never yours," Michael snarled, pushing me behind him. They collided, brutal, savage, two alphas fighting for dominance, and Michael was still weakened, still cursed, still bleeding from wounds that hadn't fully healed. He was losing. I saw it happen in slow motion, Damon's claws raking across Michael's chest, Michael stumbling, going down to one knee. "No," I breathed. And I understood. The curse fed on the incomplete bond. Every moment we denied what we were, it grew stronger. But if we completed it, if we chose each other fully, finally... "Michael!" I screamed over the fighting. He looked up, blood streaming down his face. "Do it," I said. "Mark me. Now." His eyes went wide. "Evelyn, not like this. Not in the middle of..." "Now!" I dropped to my knees beside him, swept my hair aside, baring my neck in full surrender. "I choose you. I choose us. I'm done being afraid." "Are you sure?" His voice cracked on the question. "I've never been more sure of anything." I met his eyes, let him see the truth. "You are my mate, my alpha, my choice. Mark me, Michael. Make me yours." Something broke open in his expression. Relief, joy, love so fierce it stole my breath. He pulled me close, one hand cradling my head, and pressed his lips to the curve where my neck met my shoulder. "Mine," he breathed. Then he bit down. Pain and pleasure exploded through me in equal measure. The bond, stretched thin and aching for 3 years, suddenly snapped into place with devastating force. I felt everything his wolf singing in triumph, his heart beating in sync with mine, his strength and his fear and his overwhelming love crashing over me like a wave. And power. Goddess the power. It roared through the bond, through both of us, amplified by the completion. Michael's curse shattered like glass, the dark veins dissolving into nothing as our mating bond flooded him with light and heat and pure, unbreakable connection. He lifted his head, eyes glowing gold, and when he looked at Damon, he smiled. "My turn," he said. What happened next wasn't a fight. It was a reckoning. Michael moved with his full strength restored, enhanced by the bond, by me, by everything we'd become together. Damon didn't stand a chance. Within moments, he was on the ground, defeated, Michael's hand at his throat. "Yield," Michael commanded. Damon yielded. The fighting stopped. Michael's warriors secured the fortress, and I stood there, hand pressed to my neck where his mark burned bright and perfect, feeling whole for the first time in 3 years. Michael came to me, dropped to his knees, and pressed his forehead to my stomach. "Thank you," he whispered, "for choosing me, for trusting me, for being brave enough to complete what I broke." I sank down, wrapping my arms around him. We completed it together. 6 months later, we stood under another full moon. Not in a fortress or a palace, but in my mountain cottage, our cottage now. Michael had made it true, every promise. He'd given the crown to his brother, walked away from power and politics and everything his father built. He brought me flowers every morning, cooked beside me every evening, asked permission before every touch, even though the bond gave him the right to so much more. We'd learned to be gentle with each other, to choose each other daily, not because fate demanded it, but because we wanted to. Tonight, under the goddess's light, we renewed our vows. No court, no witnesses, just us and the moon and the bond, humming perfect between us. "I choose you," he said, hands gentle on my face, "today and every day after." "I choose you," I answered, "not because I have to, because I want to." We'd both learned the hardest lesson, that true strength wasn't in walls or isolation or pride. It was in the courage to be vulnerable, to trust, to love even when love meant risking everything. The moon festival candles burned bright around us as we kissed, and somewhere in the distance, wolves howled their blessing. We were finally, completely, impossibly whole. Thank you for following Michael and Evelyn's journey from rejection to redemption, from isolation to belonging. Where are you watching from tonight? And what was your favorite moment in their story? The midnight knock, the desperate marking, or the quiet choosing that came after? Share your thoughts below.